In 1997, Torange Yeghiazarian, an Iranian Armenian immigrant to San Francisco, founded Golden Thread Productions, a common platform theater for her and other Middle Eastern immigrant playwrights, as a response to obstacles and missed opportunities in her life.
I felt there weren't that many theaters that had the resources or even the interest to produce this material that had to do with the experience of being an Iranian immigrant or an Iranian woman. I came to meet other playwrights in a similar situation as myself, Arab playwrights, Turkish, Armenian playwrights in the US who similarly were not finding an audience for their work. I grew up in a very multicultural setting with Iranian Jews and Zoroastrians and Baha'is and, a very sort of eclectic background. So to me, this idea of there is some sort of uniform set cultural ideology that defines the Middle East, that's absurd. We're always represented as victims or terrorists, and so there's really no depth or diversity to representations of the Middle East. It's always been really important to show that there are other stories and to create a home where we can tell our stories in our own words so that it's really our experience, our perspective, so other people don't define us.
Golden Thread Productions aims to create a world where the common human experience supersedes cultural and political differences.
It's really creating a space. That's what it is. It's creating a space that encourages conversation, creating a space that makes you think differently, that helps you see it differently. And that's what we do.
Well, I suggest you reconsider my offer.
We started with mostly Iranians because in the Bay Area we already had an Iranian community that was supportive of theater. So Golden Thread really benefited from that. And then the next playwrights that we started producing were Egyptian Americans, Yusuf El-Gindi and Karim Al-Rawi. So we sort of started reaching out to the Arab community. And then there's the Armenian community, there's the Turkish community, there are Kurdish, communities. And it's, we're all Middle Eastern, and many of us, as you know, have issues with being sort of labeled as Middle Eastern.
If I intimidate you,
we suffer from two things, if you ask me. One is lack of imagination. So theater, by nature, addresses that, where we can imagine alternative realities, we can imagine alternative ways of being together. And then there's a lack of dialogue, there's a lack of meaningful dialogue. And theater addresses that because it brings together people who wouldn't, under any other circumstances, hang out together. And it creates sort of a safe space for them to share each other's stories and talk about it.
Golden Thread Productions presents alternative perspective on the Middle East by running 3 theatrical programs that are aesthetically varied and politically and visually engaging.
So we have 3 play development programs at Golden Thread. One of them is Middle East America, which is a national partnership with Silk Road Rising in Chicago and Lark Play Development in New York. This is a new effort. We launched it in 2008 with the very specific idea of discovering and developing American playwrights of Middle Eastern heritage. Middle East America awards the winning playwright $10,000 and 2 years of development and the option of production in San Francisco and Chicago. We have another program called Kimia, which comes from alchemy. And the goal of Kimia is to bring together artistic collaborators that are either antagonistic or surprising collaborations. Plays that we select, we look for a voice that is self-critical, a voice that has a sense of humor, a voice that is generous. Those are our values, and that's what we look for in the work that we produce.
Golden Thread Productions defines the challenges not only by geographical boundaries, but also within and outside the community.
There's still challenges out there, obviously, because if you look at what mainstream theaters in the US are producing, there's maybe 1 or 2 plays by Middle Eastern playwrights, if that, you know. And what I'd like to see is I'd like to see every season there's at least 1 Middle Eastern playwright presented. Why shouldn't it be so, you know? And I'd like to see sort of the Middle East demystified as this sort of foreign entity, because many of us have grown up in the US, and the plays that we're writing are actually American plays, more so than Middle Eastern. On the other side, with the Middle Eastern community, we have some challenges in terms of perceptions that families have about theater, particularly for their children as a career choice because of the economic you know, hardships, and also for the girls in terms, you know, there are some negative perceptions about theater and dance. It's an ongoing challenge. I think we've made huge, huge steps. I mean, we've had amazing accomplishments over the years.
Since 1999, Golden Thread Productions has created a yearly signature festival named Reorient, which explores Middle Eastern cultures and identities as expressed around the globe.
We came up with the idea of creating a festival of short plays so that we could have, in one evening, we could have plays from different parts of the Middle East. We could also show sort of the aesthetic diversity, and so that's how Reorient came about. It was annual until the 10th anniversary, 2009. And since then, it's become a triennial event because it's grown to become quite elaborate with the Reorient Forum and trying to present artists from abroad. So we do Reorient once every 3 years. That's our festival. The next one will be in 2015. This year we have our New Threads series, which is our play reading series. We have 4 plays selected that will be presented in April and May. And they include plays by an Algerian playwright, by an Israeli playwright, and 2 American playwrights. It's actually, in the fall, we have 2 main stage productions back-to-back, and the first one is 444 Days by me, and the second one is Urge for Going by Mona Mansour.
Torange Yeghiazarian, the founding artistic director of Golden Thread Productions, has never forgotten her heritage. She recently spent a year in Iran and has written on contemporary Iranian theatre.
What I experienced was that people were writing plays that had to deal with the elections and the post-election uprisings. They were writing plays that told the stories of some of the arrests and tortures, and I was just blown away by, oh my God, you know, how is this possible? Because, as you may know, the government has to approve every script. I was really blown away by the quality of the work and by how much it mattered. One of my projects is to put together an anthology of new plays from Iran that are translated, and we did a reading of a couple of them. One of the plays was produced in Reorient, and I've developed lasting relationships with artists in Iran that I'm hoping eventually will allow me to sort of bring some artists from Iran.
3,254, 4,824.
We all have sort of this level of otherness that we feel as we grow up. And then ultimately, I think on a broader scale, it's about integration, it's about dialogue, it's about ownership, it's about being accountable for our own decisions, being accountable for what's going on in our countries.
Alex, what are you doing?
The blood, it's everywhere. I can't stop the blood. I try.
I'm looking to deepen the conversation, make the conversation more meaningful, more complex, right? I'm trying to get people away from being afraid, for one thing, being afraid of the Middle East or being afraid to ask questions, whether they're Middle Eastern or not. I'm trying to get people to feel like they fit in.